Insurance is not typically considered a bastion of innovation, despite a long track record of creating new and exciting markets around emerging risks and consumer demands. For example, the relatively new cyber insurance market is forecast to surpass $22.4 billion by 2026 at an annual growth rate of more than 25% in the next 5 years. Now, this was according to a market research and consulting firm Industry RC. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Analytics Insight, where we talk about the exciting innovation across different industries. And I'm your host, Priya Dealani. In reaction to the lockdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic, many insurers rapidly digitize their customer experience and permanently shifting away from traditional face-to-face service models. In fact, these companies are also aware that innovation has a potential to enhance their business models and develop a competitive advantage and growth, particularly as the software market continues to persist. So, how to spark innovation in the insurance industry? And today with us, we have Vineet Maheshwari, CSO and CIO at PNB MetLife India. Hi, Vineet, how are you doing?
Hi Priya, I'm doing good and thank you for having me here.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to have you with us on our podcast. So, I think most of the listeners are already aware as to what PNB MetLife is, but if you could still tell us more about the company, its specialization, what is more happening at PNB MetLife, it would be great.
Sure. PNB MetLife India insurance company, we call it PMLI. It is a life insurance company. It's in fact one of the leading life insurance companies in India. This is a joint venture with the promoters being MetLife and PNB and a few other reputed names as its shareholders. Now, MetLife is a very respected name amongst the list of global insurance providers. It is a 150-year-old company with its presence in over 40 countries. And PNB, Punjab National Bank, needs no introduction. I mean, it is the second largest bank in India in terms of its branch presence. And again, it's a very reputed 125-year-old bank. So this is bit about the company. We established business in 2001. And in terms of the products that we offer, what we do is we offer to our customers financial security across the various life stages. We call it the circle of life. And what that means is our customers typically have financial needs at all stages of life, and we offer financial solutions, for example, child education, family protection, long-term savings, and retirement solutions. This is what we offer. And, this is a company which has a diversified multi-channel distribution network, which is pan-India. So we don't just operate in the big cities. Our spread really covers what we call as the real Bharat. So we operate in around 700 districts through 18,000 plus bank branches and about 20,000 plus agents and 300 other partners. So this is a pan-India company. And, the customer is at the core of what we do, and this is not just a tagline, Priya. This reflects in some of the key matrices that, our company is in customers track, right? For example, one such metric, which is very important for customers who take life insurance solutions is what is the claim settlement ratio for this company? And, in our case, the claim settlement ratio for the previous year ended March 24 was above 99%. So we were at 99.06. And our brand, theme is really Milkar Life Aage Badhaye, which essentially means let's build life together.
Great. Thank you for sharing some important aspects about PNB MetLife and enlightening me as well as our listeners about what exactly PNB MetLife is and the core values. Now, coming to you, I think you also have a wide-ranging knowledge and experience strategizing and strengthening solutions at PNB MetLife. So, if you could also tell us more about your role, your contribution towards the company, or what is your day-to-day activities involved?
So, Priya, I'm basically a chartered accountant. I'm a finance guy. And it's been over 22 years for me in the insurance industry in India and outside India. Now, with this company, I've spent, I think, almost close to 12 years and in two stints, actually. So my first stint was between 2006 to 2010, the 4 years. And I joined back this company in 2015 onwards. So my second stint is now almost 8 years. Essentially, a large part of my career and also in this company, the initial part was managing finance roles. Since 2019, I took up a different role as the chief strategy officer. And essentially, what I do is my responsibilities includes heading the enterprise strategy, execution of the key strategic initiatives, and I also head the data science and analytics team. And I am responsible to build a culture of experimentation and innovation in the company. Now, since last year, I've also been given added responsibilities to manage the technology and digital teams. So today I'm also the Chief Information Technology Officer. For me, I think it's been a very interesting journey so far. As you can see, I mean, from finance to strategy to data science to technology, it's been a roller coaster ride. And it's a ride that I've enjoyed thoroughly. I am passionate towards solving business problems. And I can say this with a lot of satisfaction that I've enjoyed putting my experience and skills towards solving a few interesting, complex, and diverse problems. So this is what I enjoy doing, and that's what I do. I solve problems, business problems. Does that help?
Yes, definitely. And I must say that your journey seems quite impressive and fascinating. And definitely, when we're talking about the insurance industry, it has always been a very tricky industry in terms of adopting new concepts or probably, meeting customer expectations, especially with the evolving trends, the dynamic trends of which digital transformation coming into picture. I think there's a lot of things that are probably a more systematic approach and a more consolidated approach as to how we can meet customer expectations. And it's not just customer expectations. I believe we have low interest rates and new sources of competition, especially in terms of tech companies or insurance. Tech is one such a new buzzword that's coming up. So they're putting a lot of pressure on carriers to take a very innovative approach. And I think PNB MetLife has taken one. So I think you guys have launched an internal initiative called a Spark. So can you please tell us more about this initiative?
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah, I think you're right, Priya. I think we live in a VUCA world. We've always lived in a VUCA world, and now I think the term is Bani. Things have not been same since the pandemic. I think the change is happening at a very fast pace, and these are exciting times. I think
Right.
the customer expectations are really changing at a fast pace. Technology was, is, and I think continues to be a driver of change. With all that in the background, in the with that context, I think we've realized this a bit early on that I think it's very important to create an environment where innovation is encouraged. And our endeavor was how do we make it more structured and how do we go to an extent where it just it sort of becomes like the fabric of our corporate culture. With that thing in mind, we launched this initiative which we called as Spark. And that was when we started this. I think our idea was to let's listen to what our employees or our associates have to say, because there is a lot of good ideas that come from them. With that in mind, we started off by launching a platform where anybody could submit their ideas. Those ideas were looked at by a central team, and then there was a cross-functional team that executed it. So you sort of, act on it, track it, and execute it. We've then expanded it to say, how do we collaborate better with all these new age companies, these new startups? Because in India, I think the startup environment is quite exciting. There are a lot of new companies who are coming up with innovative solutions, not necessarily technology companies, but a lot of it technology companies. And we wanted to collaborate better with them. This initiative helped us do that. It helped us bring work better with these companies. So that two angles to Spark, if I can sum it up.
Great. I think this sounds quite fascinating. And I'm glad that PNB MetLife has taken such initiative in terms of how they can foster more innovation across the organization. And I think the C-suite is already taking note of the key role innovation will play in determining long-term value. I was just reading across a survey that showed that while executive team focus on short-term cash management and the welfare for the workforce during and also the immediate post of the pandemic, innovation now ranks as one of the top two priorities. So I think that's very much clear as to the need and the significance of innovative solutions or innovative approach that we need in the insurance market. But I also wanted to understand what triggered the birth of this initiative and what are some of the core problems that probably this initiative is trying to solve.
Right. So, like I said, I mean, we've been thinking about this for some time, and you see, at the heart of it is we want to differentiate ourselves. We want to drive continuous improvement and operational excellence. And like I said, the customer expectations are changing, so we need to cater to that. So, for us to meet the aspirations of our customers, of our employees, and also our shareholders, and customer care being at the center of it, I think we need to keep up in time with the changing times, right? And so that's what has triggered for us to, look at how we approach this, and that's what gave birth to Spark. Spark has also been the core of what we call our digital transformation in the recent past, which has and is helping us, drive our business better.
Right, yeah, I think it definitely makes sense. And when we're talking about innovation, I think we just don't need innovation in a particular department or in a particular hierarchy. I think it's very important to create a wholesome culture of innovation across the organization. But having said that, it's not easy because successfully profiting from innovation is a very complex and a company-wide endeavor. And most insurance companies have not cracked this code, at least on this on a very consistent basis. And in fact, one of the surveys said that life and annuity executives found that only 12% believe that they have a process that delivers strong and product innovation approach. And fewer than 30% of financial services executives say that they have the expertise, resource, and commitment to successfully pursue new sources of growth. So, like these statistics are very much clearly depict that it is a company-wide endeavor, and a lot of efforts go into putting up an innovative approach. Of course, every set has its own challenges, and every approach comes with own set of challenges. But I wanted to understand how this PNB MetLife ensures adoption of innovative solutions while addressing some concerns that might be associated with it.
I think a very good question, and you hit the nail on its head. Innovation is
Right.
not as simple as hiring a bunch of great digital guys and doing some fancy cool stuff.
Mhm.
There are some real problems when it comes to innovating. If you look at the research reports, while there is so much of buzz around technology, the biggest challenge that companies face is not around technology alone. You would typically spend around 20% of your time would go towards technology, 10% on developing algorithms, but 70% of your effort and problem statement is around talent and culture. How do you attract the right talent? How do you retain the right talent? What is your culture? Does your culture of your company promote innovation, promote experimentation? So a good question. And, I think the way we've gone about this is in our own company at PNB MetLife, building this culture has several aspects to it, right? The first thing, when you're trying to innovate, I think we have it very clear. There has to be a problem statement that you're trying to solve. So we don't innovate just because it's fancy or it's cool to do so. I think there has to be a problem statement that impacts the customer or the employees or the shareholder. And there has to be a business linkage. The second thing is when you talk about culture, it's very important in terms of how open are you to listen, to meet, to engage with new ideas. What is the messaging from the top? I have personally always felt that it's very important to embrace failure as you embark on this journey, because not all experiments are successful. In fact, there is a high rate of failure in experimentation, and therefore, how do we react to failure is a very big part of the cultural change. Also, I think it's very important that the ecosystem supports that innovation and experimentation. You would know that, what is the kind of support that you get in terms of, let's say, budgets, right? Because determining an ROI at the inception stage is very difficult. So how do you go about it, right? A big part of it is also around how agile is the process. What we've seen and this is common knowledge, is when you work with the new age companies, right? The startups, the young guys who have these ideas, they have a different way of working, right? So the bureaucracy has to be at the minimum. The processes have to be simple, and there is a different way that you need to engage with the new India, if I have to say that. And lastly, I think innovation is not a one-person job. It requires cross-functional teams to come together. Everybody has to come together, whether it's governance teams or finance teams, strategy team. There has to be a good framework where cross-functional teams are able to come together and solve for a problem. So working in silos is a big deterrent to innovation. And we acknowledge these problems and we worked on each of these. Just to give you a simple example, for example, we have in our organization what we call as a pitch day. So we would typically shortlist good firms who are able to solve our problems after initial conversations, and we bring them to a forum where the entire senior management, cross-functional stakeholders are present. It's almost like a shark tank. So those ideas get screened, it creates an enthusiasm and excitement, and we have a structure, we have a process where we try and make it simpler for us to work with these people. We try and break our innovation projects into, typically the cycle is we do POCs where the approach is different. We look at pilots, and then when we have some level of comfort, that's when we put all our energy behind and go full hog. So I think that's the way we've tried to promote this culture of experiment and innovation at PNB MetLife.
Great. That was quite comprehensive, and thank you for helping us understand the process that you follow at PNB. And yes, you definitely mentioned it correctly that the right talent is so important. So just one quick follow-up question is while we understand that having the right talent is very important, but when you're trying to create an innovative culture-driven company, there are sometimes a resistance to it, and I believe our employees are the first ones to be resistant against probably some new innovative approach that we are trying to adopt. So have you also faced resistance at PNB MetLife, and how have you been able to tackle that?
I think it's a natural process. I think there is always resistance to change, and
Hmm.
and sometimes it's healthy as well. We understand and acknowledge that. There are various ways by which we're trying to solve for it. For example, we make it when it comes to experimental innovation. I think we try and make it more fun, more rewarding. I think good ideas are rewarded, they're acknowledged. There's a lot of effort, management visibility that goes into it. So it's a very positive sort of an environment. Secondly, I think for teams which are looking at it, we understand that sometimes the BAU, business as usual work, is very heavy. So there has to be a structured way of finding space for innovation. We've introduced KPIs and goal sheets of key people who will support innovation. And so therefore, I think these are some measures which help. And you're right. I mean, change management is not easy. We simplify a process, and then we may find ourselves going backwards. But this is what the whole this is a challenge that all companies face, and we just need to be at it uh, bit by bit, step by step, and just be at it. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
True, yeah, definitely. It makes sense. And having a very solid foundation and a supporting culture are very essential when you're talking about innovation to take a deep root within an organization. But I think there's always a but when we're talking about such things. It's that innovation of when we are trying to implement it, it truly thrives. The results to be tangible and measurable, and often results can take months or even years to manifest. So how has that been at PNB, and if you can demonstrate some real business impact of your solutions, and if it's okay, if you can share some success metrics as well.
This is almost like my CEO talking to me. So um,
Right.
this is a question we get asked almost every
Often.
time. What is your hit
Yeah,
rate?
yeah.
What is the impact? How is it helping the business? So I can tell you, there is a lot that is happening, and I think we are still in the early days of our journey. But I think we have a good story to begin with. And since you asked me some matrices, let me quote you some matrices, right? Which will help you gauge the impact. Now, today at PNB MetLife, you'll be surprised to know that 99% of our customers are onboarded digitally. Now, you imagine the landscape at which we operate in a country like India. That's one metric I'm throwing at you. I think AI bots, servicing, digital servicing is very common, but we do have a robust system in place where 24 by 7 digital policy servicing is there, and our digital servicing rates today are at 85% prayer. I can also throw some more matrices. For example, some of these initiatives that came out of Spark was, can we have a faster claim assurance process? So while this is not applicable to all our customers, but for certain threshold of claims, we have a 3-hour claim promise, right? So these are just some examples, and we are looking at digital adoption rates um, across our customer touch points and life cycle very, very closely, because that's a good indicator of, are you in the right direction? Now, when you talk about impact, I can share a few more examples um, without getting into the specifics. But for example, right, we took special regulatory approvals to launch a dental solution. Now, we were the only life insurance company in India that did that. And there is a huge market for dental. And you'll be surprised to know that there are very limited options for a good dental product and a dental ecosystem. So we took the pain to do that. We experimented in 3 cities, and this is an initiative that was even recognized by a very prestigious award, which is backed by the Ministry of Telecommunication and Information Technology. Um, there are simpler examples as well, which have come out. For example, ideas from our own employees, as simple as, why can't we digitize the entire policy loan process? And we did that. And today our loan book has increased substantially. Things like, how do we make it simpler for our agents? So today we have what we call as a super app for agent, which is in one app the agent or the distributor is able to see all his needs, whether it is MIS or his recruitment or his earnings. And initiatives like these, we are, for example, in one state, we've started using a newer technology around medicals, right? So in insurance, you would know that customers typically have to go to a medical test center to get their medicals done. Now, we are talking to several health and wellness partners, and with one of them, we are experimenting with this where, you get the results instantly at home without any wait, and so forth. Does that answer your question, Priya?
Yes, definitely, Vineet. And I'm glad to see PNB at the forefront of adopting a very innovative culture and spearheading as to how insurance can be more customer centric and making insurance, the entire insurance process more simpler and easier, because we all know that it's pretty daunting. And with most of the case studies that you helped us explain, I think it means it also highlights that different innovative initiatives and measures call it for different approaches. Now, for example, like most organizations can predict with some certainty the likely gain in gross written premiums or combined ratio from an improvement to an existing coverage or tweak the entire process. Now, this knowledge leads to a clarity on the risks and how to mitigate them. So this type of innovation is very different from developing an entirely disruptive new product, such as a new life insurance policy or like the one that you mentioned, a dental solution with that might offer some flexibility or unprecedented flexibility across living benefits. So I want to understand, when we're calling for different approaches, are there any key partnerships that PNB MetLife engages itself in order to drive innovation or a culture of experimentations in the company?
Oh yes, like I said, I think you need to partner in the external environment, and we also have, I would say, we've engaged with over 60 startups that offer cutting edge technologies and innovation solutions. And this, while I'll refrain from giving names here, but this is across the customer touch points. So there is a company that we partnered in with, for example, where they're making it easier for us to recruit frontline salespeople, right? They have tie up with universities, they have a platform, so which makes it easier for the students to get onboarded, get well versed with the insurance, and by the time we pick them up, they are already ready. We have partnered with firms to help us with analytics, for example, with our machine learning models, which is helping us solve for efficiency related problems, helping us get better at how do we reach the right customer at the right time, and so forth. Yeah.
Right. And I think to summarize it, it's just that all businesses, they want to foster innovation. It requires a lot of efforts in terms of definitely going through cultural change and also engaging with key partnerships, like you just mentioned, where you guys have tied up with around 60 startups. And I think that's very important. So it is clear that breaking down existing silos and therefore allowing a very genuine collaboration is key to effective innovation both within and between insurers and insurers, but across the wider market as well. So, one last question for you, Vineet, is what do you think are the future trends of technological integrations in the insurance industry?
All right, that's a question that I can probably take another 1 hour to answer, but I know we're running out of
Right.
time, so I'll just keep it very
Yeah.
short and crisp. Look,
Mhm.
if I have to pick up, let's say, just the broad themes, the customer today, there is a need for hyper personalization. So all companies need to come up with solutions which are flexible and tailored. Now, that could mean anything, right? It could mean starting from what language are you communicating with the customer to the product being much more flexible. So, whether it is a bit-sized product, are you customizing your approach, your underwriting approach, your onboarding journey basis the profile of the customer? How flexible is it, right? Are you giving many more options and including the payment options? Is your underwriting sort of personalized? Is it front end? So on and so forth. So that's the one theme, right? The second is there is a lot of focus on wellness, like even within the life insurance industry, which typically uh, uh, you know restricts itself to life insurance solutions. I think there is a trend, there is a need to incentivize the right health behavior, and I do expect a lot of action in this space. The third theme I would call out is, the government has a vision that by within 100 years of India's independence, every home should have an insurance. So that's the government's and the IRDA regulators vision. And a big part of fulfilling that vision is how do we reach the tier 3 cities, the rural areas, right? And there I think technology is going to play a critical role. So micro insurance and rural penetration, technology will play a critical role. And thanks to the excellent digital ecosystem that we now have, the India's UPI story, it's much more easier uh, for companies to leverage on that and drive penetration. So that's going to be the theme. And maybe if I have to pick up, let's say, one or two more themes, I would pick up distributor productivity. So how are you using technology to reduce your costs, become more efficient, and improve your distributor productivity? And lastly, I think two big more themes for our industry is around cybersecurity. That's a very important theme. So while a lot that's happening around technology and AI, I think cybersecurity will and is getting much more important. And I would pick up financial literacy and awareness, insurance awareness to be another big theme for the coming decade in India. I think this conversation would not end if I did not comment on AI. I think
Yeah.
yes, I think artificial intelligence, we believe it's transformative, and especially when you combine it with the human oversight and direction, it has the power
Mhm.
to positively change the way we do things, both in our personal and professional lives. So that's an area where I think, and the responsible use of AI will be a big theme
Yeah.
for companies in the times
Yeah.
to come. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I think artificial intelligence is definitely growing massively, and it's there, and it's going to be there for the years to come. And we're already witnessing the impacts, positive impacts as well. And of course, we have to mitigate the negative risks of it by responsibly using AI. And when you're talking about the insurance and the integration of technology, I think now is the time that insurance companies can increase the quality, pace, and breadth of innovation because customer expectations are evolving and they're literally challenging companies to deliver personalized and customer centric products. And at the same time, the C-suite is also recognizing the power of innovation to accelerate the pace of change. And for innovation to deliver long-term value, it must just go beyond the product offerings and become like more of an embedded in the company's DNA by carefully considering priorities, engaging in mutually beneficial partnerships, and tapping fully resources to drive innovation across the organization and across the product offerings as well. Well, thank you so much, Vineet. It was a pleasure having you with us on a podcast. I think we gained some interesting insights as to how insurance can be at the forefront when we are talking about technological integrations and adopting innovative solutions in order to provide the best experience to customers and making insurance more easier and simpler compared to changing the mindset as to when we talk about insurance, people always think it's a very daunting process, but I think PNB MetLife is at the forefront, and it was pleasure talking to you about it.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me here, Priya. It was great conversation and have a good day. Thank you.
So this is a note for my listeners. Stay tuned for upcoming podcast, and you can view all our previous old podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.